You don't belong here. The words slice through the marble-clad lobby of the Grandeur Royale Hotel like a blade, sharp and unmistakable. The security guard's hand hovers near his radio, eyes cold as they scan the black woman standing before him. Amara Johnson doesn't flinch. Her Armani suit fits perfectly. Her posture remains regal, but to them, she's just another unwanted visitor in their pristine world. The chandelier light catches the contempt in Derek Thompson's eyes as the hotel manager steps forward, his smile as fake as the gold-plated fixtures surrounding them. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This establishment has standards." The lobby buzzes with the whispers of watching guests, their phones already rising to capture whatever drama is about to unfold. Amara's fingers curl slightly at her sides, the only sign of the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. She knows what's coming. She's lived it before. Felt it in boardrooms and boutiques, in restaurants and first-class cabins. But today will be different. Today, in exactly 9 minutes, the Grandeur Royale Hotel will learn exactly who they've chosen to humiliate. What happens next will leave you questioning everything about power, prejudice, and the price of dignity in America today. The automatic doors of the Grandeur Royale Hotel whisper open with their familiar pneumatic sigh, and Amara Johnson steps into a world of crystal chandeliers and marble floors that she knows better than her own home. She's dressed deliberately down today, a simple navy blazer from Target over dark slacks, her usual Cartier watch left in the safe, no sign of the wealth she's accumulated over 25 years of building a hospitality empire, 3 months in Tokyo negotiating the expansion deal, and this is her first day back. She wants to see her flagship property through the eyes of an ordinary guest, to understand why the complaint letters have been piling up on her desk, why the Yelp reviews have taken a disturbing turn. Exterior incubator. The lobby still takes her breath away even after all these years. Italian marble she personally selected. Chandeliers from a centuries-old Czech glassmaker. Fresh orchids flown in weekly. Every detail crafted to say, you belong here. You matter here. Or at least, that was the intention. But something in the air feels different now. A sharpness, a coldness that has nothing to do with the air conditioning humming through the vents. Derek Thompson spots her immediately from his perch behind the concierge desk. She's noticed him in quarterly reports, impressive numbers, efficient operations, promoted twice in 18 months. But the way his eyes narrow as he takes in her appearance, the slight curl of his lip as he categorizes her as not our clientele, tells her everything she needs to know about how those numbers were achieved. He doesn't see the MIT MBA, the 15 years of grinding through the hotel industry's racism and sexism, the woman who turned 3 failing properties into a boutique empire worth $400 million, 0 cents. He sees dark skin in his lily-white lobby, and that's all he needs to make his judgment. "Can I help you?" His tone suggests he'd rather do anything but. There's a practiced dismissiveness in his voice, the kind that comes from years of gatekeeping, of deciding who deserves courtesy and who deserves contempt. Behind him, Sarah Kim, the front desk supervisor, looks up from her computer screen, her fingers pausing mid-type as she recognizes the familiar dance about to begin. They exchange a knowing glance, the kind of look that says, "Here we go again, another one who doesn't understand where they are." "Good afternoon," Amara responds, her voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that comes from addressing board members and international investors, though Derek wouldn't know it. "I'd like to speak with someone from management about the hotel's customer service policies." She keeps her tone neutral, professional, giving them every opportunity to surprise her, to prove the complaints wrong. Derek's perfectly waxed mustache twitches with what might be amusement. "I'm sure you would," he replies, not bothering to hide his condescension, "but our management team is quite busy with actual business matters. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the Comfort Inn down the street. They have more flexible policies." The casual cruelty of the suggestion hangs in the air like expensive perfume, cloying and impossible to ignore. He doesn't even pretend to check if management is available, doesn't ask what her concerns might be. Her skin color has told him everything he thinks he needs to know. A couple checking in at the adjacent desk, white, mid-40s, matching Rolexes, glances over, their curiosity piqued by the tension crackling through the space. The woman whispers something to her husband, and they both stare with the detached interest of people watching a play unfold. Amara takes a measured step forward, close enough now to read Derek's name tag clearly, to see the small Confederate flag pin he wears on his lapel, a detail that makes her stomach turn even as she makes a mental note for the lawyers. "I don't think you understand," she says, each word precise and deliberate. "I have some serious concerns about how this establishment is being run, and I'd prefer to discuss them with someone in authority." She's giving him rope, wondering if he'll use it to pull himself to safety or fashion it into a noose. Sarah abandons all pretense of working now, standing up to get a better view of the unfolding scene. Her youth, she can't be more than 25, doesn't excuse the eager cruelty in her expression. "Ma'am," she interjects, her voice dripping with false sweetness, the kind reserved for people you want to hurt while maintaining plausible deniability. "Our management doesn't just meet with anyone who walks in off the street. Do you have a reservation? Are you even a guest here?" The questions are rhetorical. They've already decided she doesn't belong. Probably decided it the moment she walked through the door. That's when Rebecca Mills emerges from the staff entrance, her severe bob and sharper attitude preceding her into the lobby. Head of Human Resources for the past 3 years, hired during Amara's extended absence to handle the expanding staff. Her resume was impressive. Cornell hospitality degree, 10 years at Marriott. But resumes don't reveal character. She takes in the scene with a glance and immediately positions herself as backup to Derek's authority, her body language screaming solidarity with her team against the outsider. "Is there a problem here?" Rebecca asks, though her tone suggests she's already assigned blame. Her hand goes to her phone, probably ready to call security or worse. It's a choreographed dance, one they've clearly performed before. The thought of how many other people of color have stood in this exact spot, facing this exact treatment, makes Amara's chest tighten with a familiar anger, not just for herself, but for every person who didn't have the power to fight back. "No problem yet," Amara says calmly, reaching into her jacket pocket. She pulls out a business card, intentionally vague, just her name and a phone number, no title, no company name. She hands it to Derek, who takes it between 2 fingers like it might be contaminated with something contagious. He glances at it for less than a second before letting out a short, dismissive laugh that echoes off the marble floors. "Amara Johnson," he reads aloud, making a show of scrutinizing the simple card, turning it over as if looking for credentials that aren't there. "Anyone can print business cards at Kinko's, Miss Johnson. That doesn't mean you get to waste our time with whatever—" He waves his hand vaguely, a gesture meant to diminish her to nothing. "Situation you think you have." Behind him, Sarah actually giggles, the sound sharp and ugly in the elegant space, like a crack in fine china. The lobby is filling up now with the late afternoon check-in rush. Business travelers dragging roller bags. A family with 3 young children trying to corral them away from the fountain. An elderly couple moving slowly toward the elevator. More eyes are turning their way, drawn by that invisible magnetism of public conflict. A bellhop pushing a brass luggage cart slows down, sensing the drama. 2 businessmen in expensive suits pause their conversation mid-sentence to watch. The very air seems to thicken with anticipation. "I suggest you leave now," Derek continues, emboldened by his audience, his voice carrying deliberately across the space. "Before we have to escalate this situation. The Grandeur Royale maintains certain standards, and we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone who might disturb our other guests." The pause before disturb is deliberate, loaded with unspoken meaning. The implication hangs heavy between them. She has disturbed them simply by existing in their space while black. Amara takes a slow breath, centering herself the way her grandmother taught her all those years ago in Mississippi. Let them show themselves, Grandma Rose used to say. Give them enough rope. The memory of her grandmother's voice, soft but steel-strong, grounds her in this moment. I understand you have standards, she says evenly. I'm questioning whether those standards include treating potential guests with basic respect and dignity. Respect is earned, Rebecca interjects, her voice sharp as her bob. And right now, you're trespassing on private property after being asked to leave. Derek, call security. We don't have time for this. The ease with which they're prepared to escalate, to remove her like trash from their pristine space, speaks volumes about the culture that's been allowed to fester in her absence. Derek reaches for his radio with theatrical flair, bringing it to his lips slowly, savoring his power. Security to the main lobby. We have a situation with an uncooperative individual. The words are carefully chosen. Uncooperative, rather than any specific accusation. Individual, to strip away her humanity. It's the language of bureaucratic racism, refined and polished until it gleams like the marble floors beneath their feet. Marcus Williams appears within 30 seconds, flanked by 2 other guards. They move with the coordinated precision of a unit that's done this before, many times. Marcus is a mountain of a man, 6'4", with shoulders that strain against his black uniform. His shaved head gleams under the chandelier light, and his hand rests on his belt, fingers drumming against the radio holstered there. The gesture is meant to intimidate, to remind everyone that he has backup, that he has power, that he is the enforcer of their particular version of order. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the premises, Marcus says, his voice a low rumble that seems to vibrate through the floor. Now. The last word cracks like a whip, designed to spark fear or anger, anything that might justify what comes next. His partners fan out slightly, creating a semicircle, boxing her in without actually touching her. It's practiced, professional, and utterly dehumanizing. Around them, the lobby has transformed into an amphitheater. Guests pretend to check their phones while obviously recording. Staff members find excuses to linger nearby, hungry for drama, to break up their shift monotony. The purple-haired young woman Amara noticed earlier has her phone out, live streaming on what looks like Instagram, narrating in a hushed but audible voice. Y'all seeing this? Grandeur Royale security surrounding a black woman who just asked to speak to management? This is insane. On what grounds? Amara asks, her voice steady as glass. I've broken no laws, violated no policies. I simply asked to speak with management about legitimate concerns. She's a lawyer's daughter, knows her rights backward and forward. But more than that, she's giving them one last chance, though she knows they won't take it. People like Derek and Rebecca never do. They're too invested in their small kingdoms, too drunk on the tiny bits of power they've been allowed to wield. You're causing a disturbance, Derek interjects, stepping forward with newfound courage now that security has arrived. Multiple guests have complained. It's a lie so bold that even Sarah looks momentarily uncomfortable before her expression hardens again. No one has complained except the staff, but the truth has never been a requirement in situations like these. The truth is whatever Derek says it is, because he has the uniform and the backup and the certainty that comes from never having his authority questioned. Which guests? Amara asks pleasantly. I'd be happy to apologize to them directly. The question catches Derek off guard. His eyes dart around the lobby, searching for support that isn't coming. The white couple at check-in looks uncomfortable now, the woman tugging at her husband's sleeve. A well-dressed black couple near the elevators watches with expressions of disgust, but their disgust is clearly directed at the staff, not at Amara. An Asian family hurries their children toward the restaurant, not wanting them to witness whatever's about to happen. You don't get to question us. Rebecca steps into the gap left by Derek's stammering. We don't owe you explanations. This is private property, and we've asked you to leave. If you refuse, you're trespassing. She's pulled out her own phone now, making a show of preparing to dial. Would you prefer to walk out on your own, or should we call the police? The threat of police involvement changes the atmosphere instantly. Every black person in the lobby feels it, that cold touch of fear that comes with knowing how these stories too often end. The white guests shift uncomfortably, some perhaps remembering headlines about hotel arrests gone wrong, others simply eager to see how far this will go. The purple-haired streamer's voice rises. "They're threatening to call the cops on her for asking to speak to management." Sarah picks up the desk phone with theatrical flair, her manicured fingers hovering over the buttons. "Unless you leave right now, I'm dialing 911, and I'll make sure to tell them you're being aggressive and threatening." The lie rolls off her tongue so easily it's clear this is a well-rehearsed script. How many times has she made this same threat? How many people have scurried away rather than risk the potentially deadly consequences of police involvement? "Please do," Amara says, calling their bluff. "Make sure to tell them that a paying customer asked to speak to management and was surrounded by security guards for the crime of existing while black. I'm sure that will play well on the evening news." Her calmness seems to unnerve them more than anger would. They're used to tears or rage, responses they can point to as justification. But this steady, dignified resistance doesn't fit their script. That's when Anthony Chen appears, drawn by the commotion or perhaps by some survival instinct that warns him his comfortable world is about to shift. The deputy general manager strides into the lobby with the confidence of someone used to having his presence solve problems. He's younger than the others, early 30s, with an expensive suit that probably cost more than most of his staff makes in a month, and a watch that definitely did. His parents immigrated from Taiwan in the 80s, worked 3 jobs each to put him through Cornell. He should understand what it's like to be othered, to be seen as less than. But Amara can see in his eyes that he's chosen a different path, aligning himself with power rather than challenging it, climbing the ladder by pulling it up behind him. "What's going on here?" Anthony asks, though his tone suggests he's already picked a side. His arrival is like oxygen to Derek, who practically vibrates with relief at having upper management support. "Mr. Chen, this woman refuses to leave. She's been harassing staff and making unreasonable demands to see management." The lies flow like water now, each person adding their own embellishments to the narrative they're constructing. Anthony turns to Amara, and for a moment, just a moment, recognition flickers in his eyes. They met briefly at the Pacific Hospitality Summit 2 years ago. She gave a keynote on inclusive leadership that had the whole conference buzzing. He'd approached her afterward, full of enthusiasm about implementing her ideas at his property. The memory is clearly nagging at him, but it's distant, clouded by the current situation and his own biases. "Ma'am, I'm Anthony Chen, Deputy General Manager. What seems to be the issue?" He's buying time, she can see it, trying to place her face while maintaining his authority. Before Amara can respond, Derek jumps in, eager to control the narrative. She claims she wants to discuss customer service policies, but she has no reservation, no reason to be here. We've asked her to leave multiple times. She's being deliberately difficult. He's painting her as the unreasonable one, the angry black woman who won't follow simple directions. It's a narrative as old as America itself, and it still works because people want to believe it, need to believe it, to justify their own prejudices. Anthony looks at Amara again, that nagging sense of familiarity clearly bothering him. She can see the moment he makes the connection, his eyes widen slightly, his breath catches. But then his gaze lands on Derek, Rebecca, Sarah, his team, his people, the ones he has to work with tomorrow and the day after, the ones who control his daily life more than any CEO ever could. The choice, when framed that way, seems easy. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you have concerns, you can submit them through our website or what, Anthony?" Amara asks, using his first name deliberately. "Or you'll have me arrested for existing while black in a hotel lobby. Is that what you learned at the Pacific Hospitality Summit? Is that the inclusive leadership you were so excited about?" The directness of the accusation makes him flinch. The recognition in his eyes is complete now, but it's too late. He's already chosen his side. We don't... Anthony stammers, but Rebecca cuts him off. Mr. Chen, should I call the police? This is escalating. There's something eager in her voice, an anticipation that makes Amara's stomach turn. She's enjoying this, getting pleasure from the power to humiliate and exclude. Amara looks at her phone, checking the time. 7 minutes have passed since she walked through those doors. 2 more minutes until the scheduled arrival. She'd hoped it wouldn't come to this, had given them every opportunity to surprise her, to prove that the complaints were exaggerated. But here they stand, ready to criminalize her presence rather than listen to her words. You have 2 minutes, she says quietly, putting her phone away. 2 minutes to reconsider this decision. Derek actually laughs, the sound bouncing off the marble walls. Are you threatening us? Marcus, did you hear that? She's making threats now. The security guards step closer, tightening their semicircle. The physical intimidation is obvious, designed to make her feel small, trapped. But Amara has been made to feel small her entire life. By teachers who said she'd never amount to anything, by investors who wouldn't take her calls, by competitors who wouldn't take her calls, by competitors who underestimated her at every turn. She'd built an empire on the ashes of their doubts. Miss Johnson, Anthony says, the name finally clicking fully into place, his face draining of color. Wait, are you? A minute, she says, cutting him off. Her voice carries a weight that makes even Marcus pause. There's something in her tone, an authority that doesn't match their prejudiced assumptions. Sarah is still holding the phone, her finger poised over the buttons, but uncertainty creeps into her expression. Rebecca has her phone out, recording everything, for legal purposes, she claims, but her hand isn't quite as steady as it was. Derek stands with his arms crossed, but the smug smile is starting to falter. Outside, the sound of engines grows louder, not one car, but several, the kind of convoy that usually heralds the arrival of someone important. A celebrity, a politician, someone whose presence changes the very air in a room. Through the glass doors, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows pull up to the valet stand in perfect formation. The valet attendants scramble, clearly not expecting this level of arrival. Anthony's head swivels toward the entrance, confusion clear on his face. This isn't on his schedule. There's no VIP arrival planned for today. The doors of the vehicles open in synchronized precision, like a choreographed dance. Out step figures in expensive suits, moving with the purposeful stride of people who bill by the minute and never lose. Time's up, Amara says softly, and the words carry the weight of prophecy. The automatic doors glide open one final time, and the truth arrives, dressed in legal briefs and financial reports. Michael Roberts enters first. 6 feet of legal intimidation in a $5,000 0-cent suit, his silver hair and stern expression marking him as someone who's ended careers in courtrooms from New York to Los Angeles. Behind him, Jennifer Wu, the chief financial officer, moves with the quick efficiency of someone who manages billions and tolerates no inefficiency. Her fingers already fly across a tablet, pulling up files and figures. Finally, David Morrison, chairman of the board, a man whose name appears on hospital wings and university buildings, steps through the threshold with the gravitas of arriving royalty. But it's not their individual presence that freezes the lobby into stunned silence. It's the way they move. Not toward the front desk to check in, not to Anthony Chen to report a problem, but directly to Amara Johnson. The same woman Derek has been trying to eject like common trash. The same woman Sarah mockingly suggested should try a cheaper hotel. The same woman Rebecca was seconds away from having arrested. David Morrison reaches Amara first, and in a gesture that will be replayed thousands of times on social media before the hour is over, he bows his head slightly in respect. CEO Johnson, he says, his voice carrying across the marble expanse like a judge's gavel. We came as quickly as we could. I apologize for what you've had to endure. The words hit the room like a physical force. CEO. Johnson. 2 words that transform everything, that flip the entire narrative on its head. Derek's face drains of color so quickly that he sways on his feet, gripping the concierge desk for support. The phone slips from Sarah's nerveless fingers, clattering onto the desk with a sound like gunshot in the sudden silence. Rebecca's recording hand drops to her side, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly like a fish pulled from water. Marcus takes an involuntary step back, his hand falling away from his belt. But it's Anthony Chen's reaction that's most telling, his eyes wide with the kind of terror that comes from realizing you've just helped dig your own professional grave. "Miss Johnson," he whispers. I couldn't." "No need to apologize, David," Amara says, addressing the chairman while keeping her eyes on her tormentors. "The last 9 minutes have been extremely educational. I've learned more about the culture of my hotel in this brief time than 3 months of reports could have taught me." She turns slowly, making eye contact with each of them in turn. "Wouldn't you agree, Derek?" The manager, former manager, though he doesn't know it yet, tries to speak, but only a strangled sound emerges. His hands shake visibly as he grips the edge of the concierge desk for support. Behind him, Sarah has sunk into her chair, tears already forming in her eyes as the magnitude of her actions crashes over her. The live-streaming guest with purple hair gasps audibly, her narration to her followers taking on a tone of vindicated excitement. "Oh my God, y'all! She owns the hotel! She's the CEO! They just tried to kick out their own boss!" Jennifer Wu opens her laptop right there in the lobby, balancing it on her arm with practiced ease. "Should I pull up the files now, Ms. Johnson?" she asks, her fingers already flying across the keyboard. The question is rhetorical. Jennifer doesn't wait for answers. She anticipates needs. Within seconds, she's connected to the hotel's main display system, and the large screen typically used for welcome messages and event announcements flickers to life, with very different content. "Let's start with Mr. Thompson, shall we?" Amara says, gesturing to the screen as Derek's employee file appears in damning detail. 6 formal complaints of discrimination in the past 18 months. 3 from Black guests, 2 from Latino guests, 1 from an Asian family who was told the hotel was fully booked despite online availability. Each word falls like a hammer blow. Investigated and found no merit. Interesting how that works, isn't it, Rebecca? The head of human resources looks like she might faint. Her carefully maintained composure has crumbled entirely, replaced by the naked fear of someone watching their crimes exposed in real time. The screen shifts to her file next, and the lobby gasps collectively at what appears. "Speaking of HR," Amara continues, her voice carrying the controlled fury of someone who's seen too much injustice. "Let's discuss the $47,000, 0 cents missing from the Employee Welfare Fund. The fund meant to help our housekeeping and maintenance staff with emergency expenses. Tell me, Rebecca, did you think no one would notice? Or did you assume that the people you were stealing from, mostly immigrants, mostly women of color, were too powerless to do anything about it?" Michael Roberts steps forward, his voice carrying the authority of someone who's never lost a wrongful termination suit. "For the record, everything being displayed is documented evidence that will be submitted to the appropriate authorities. Ms. Mills, I suggest you contact your own legal representation immediately. The FBI takes embezzlement very seriously, especially when it crosses state lines." The screen changes again, showing Sarah's Instagram account. Post after post of mocking photos and cruel comments about guests. "And here we have Ms. Kim," Amara says, each word deliberate and cutting, who has been photographing and mocking guests on her personal social media, including, and this is particularly egregious, posting credit card information of guests she found annoying. I believe that's not just a violation of hotel policy, but several federal laws regarding privacy and financial information security. Sarah breaks down completely, sobbing into her hands. "I didn't mean... It was just jokes. I have student loans. My mom is sick. I needed this job." The pleas fall on deaf ears, not because Amara lacks compassion, but because Sarah showed none when she had the power. "Your mother's illness doesn't justify violating federal law," Amara says, not unkindly but firmly. But it does explain why you felt trapped in a toxic culture that rewarded cruelty. Derek, did you know about Ms. Kim's social media activities? Derek's silence is answer enough. Of course he knew. He probably laughed at the posts, encouraged them, created the environment where such behavior was not just tolerated but celebrated. Now, Amara says, turning to face Anthony Chen, who looks like he's aged 10 years in the past 2 minutes. You present an interesting case, Mr. Chen. You recognized me, didn't you? We met at the Pacific Hospitality Summit 2 years ago. You attended my keynote on inclusive leadership. You approached me afterward, full of ideas about creating a more equitable workplace. Her voice carries disappointment more than anger. Yet when faced with a choice between doing what's right and protecting your position, you chose complicity. You saw your staff discriminating against someone, and instead of stopping it, you joined them. I wasn't sure, Anthony stammers. I thought maybe I was mistaken. No. Amara cuts him off. You weren't unsure, you were calculating. You decided that siding with them was safer than defending someone you thought was powerless. That's not confusion, Anthony. That's cowardice. And it's exactly the kind of leadership that allows discrimination to flourish. Around the lobby, the audience watches in stunned silence. Someone in the back starts a slow clap, quickly hushed by their companion. The Purple Haze live streamer is providing breathless commentary to her followers, her viewer count climbing rapidly as word spreads across social media. Several employees from other departments have appeared, drawn by the commotion or perhaps by some primal sense that power is shifting, that the old order is crumbling. Marcus and his security team have backed away, trying to blend into the walls, but Amara hasn't forgotten them. Mr. Williams, she addresses the security chief. Your team's response time was impressive, 90 seconds from call to arrival. You've clearly practiced this many times. How many people have you removed from this lobby for the crime of existing while black? How many times have you been Derek's enforcer? Marcus's deep voice cracks as he responds. I was just following orders, ma'am. I didn't make the call. I got 3 kids. I need this job. Following orders? Amara repeats, the historical weight of that defense hanging in the air. Every systemic injustice in history has been enabled by people just following orders. Your children deserve a father who stands for something more than blind obedience. She turns to address the entire lobby now, her voice carrying to every corner. This is what discrimination looks like in 2025. Not whites-only signs, but dress codes selectively enforced. Not Jim Crow laws, but staff empowered to remove anyone who doesn't fit their image. Not burning crosses, but 1,000 small acts of humiliation designed to make people feel unwelcome in spaces they have every right to occupy. David Morrison steps forward, his boardroom presence commanding attention. As chairman of the board, I'm appalled by what I've witnessed today. This is not who we claim to be. This is not the values the Grandeur Royale was built on. He turns to the assembled staff. Effective immediately, there will be a complete review of all personnel, policies, and procedures. What happened today is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom of a diseased culture that ends now. Jennifer Wu's fingers continue flying across her keyboard. I'm sending termination notices to Mr. Thompson, Ms. Mills, and Ms. Kim effective immediately. Security will escort them from the premises within the hour. Mr. Chen, you have 24 hours to submit your resignation or face termination with cause. The clinical efficiency of corporate justice being served is both satisfying and chilling. Wait! Derek finally finds his voice, desperation cracking through his former arrogance. He actually drops to his knees, a gesture so dramatic that several guests gasp. Ms. Johnson, please. I didn't know who you were. I have a family. My wife just lost her job. We have a mortgage. My daughter's starting college. And every person you discriminated against had a family too. Amara responds, her voice steady but not unkind. Every guest you turned away had dreams, obligations, people depending on them. The fact that you only see their humanity now, when your own livelihood is threatened, proves you haven't learned anything. Rebecca tries a different approach, legal threats replacing her earlier tears. This is wrongful termination. I'll sue. You can't prove those allegations. I have rights. Michael Roberts actually smiles, the expression sharp as a blade. Ms. Mills, I have 17 witnesses to today's events, video evidence of your discriminatory behavior, and a forensic accounting report documenting your embezzlement down to the penny. Please, do sue. I haven't had an easy win in months. The crowd in the lobby has grown even larger. Staff members from other departments have appeared, drawn by the commotion. Many of them, particularly the housekeeping staff, predominantly women of color, watch with expressions of grim satisfaction. How many times have they endured Derek's condescension, Rebecca's dismissive treatment, Sarah's mockery? Today, they're seeing justice served hot and fresh. Some of you might be wondering, Amara addresses the broader audience, why I didn't immediately identify myself, why I allowed this to escalate. She pauses, making eye contact with as many people as possible. Because showing my ID would have only changed how they treated me. It wouldn't have changed who they are. It wouldn't have protected the next black guest who walks through those doors without a CO title to shield them. An older black woman in a housekeeping uniform steps forward from the crowd. Her name tag reads Dorothy, and there are tears streaming down her weathered face. Ms. Johnson? Her voice cracks with emotion. I don't know if you remember me. I'm Dorothy Washington. 23 years ago, you hired me yourself. I was fresh out of rehab. No one would give me a chance. You looked at my application, looked me in the eye, and said, everyone deserves a second chance. You gave me dignity when I had nothing. Amara's composed facade cracks as recognition floods through her. Dorothy! Of course I remember. You were one of my first hires when I bought this place. Dorothy nods, wiping her eyes. I was so proud to work for you. Told everyone about the black woman who owned this beautiful hotel, who treated everyone with respect. Then you started traveling more and things changed. Derek made our lives hell, cut our hours if we complained. Rebecca ignored every grievance. But I remembered the woman who gave me a chance when no one else would. I knew you'd come back. I knew you'd make it right. The embrace between the two women is long and fierce, both of them crying now. Around them, other longtime employees nod in recognition, remembering the early days when Amara knew everyone's name, attended their weddings, celebrated their children's graduations. Success had pulled her away, but injustice has brought her back. I'm sorry I was gone so long, Amara whispers to Dorothy. I'm sorry I let this happen. You're here now, Dorothy says firmly. That's what matters. As security begins escorting the terminated employees out, Derek makes one last desperate attempt. This isn't over. I know people. You'll regret this. My brother-in-law is a lawyer. Your brother-in-law will advise you to be quiet and be grateful we're not pressing criminal charges, Michael Roberts says calmly. Yet, Sarah is led out, sobbing, her carefully constructed Instagram life crumbling in real time. Rebecca walks in stunned silence, already calculating the criminal charges she'll face. Anthony Chen stands alone, isolated in his shame. Miss Johnson, Anthony begins, but she holds up a hand. Save it for your resignation letter, Anthony. Make it good. Explain how a man who attended a seminar on inclusive leadership could stand by and watch discrimination happen in real time. Maybe writing it out will help you understand where you went wrong. And Anthony, your parents sacrificed everything to give you opportunities. Today, you dishonored their struggle. The blow lands with visible impact. Anthony's shoulders slump as he walks away, the weight of his choices finally crushing the armor of his ambition. Later that evening, Amara calls an all-hands meeting in the grand ballroom. Staff members file in nervously, housekeepers still in their uniforms, bellhops, concierge staff, restaurant workers, maintenance crews. The very people who keep the Grandeur Royale running but who are too often invisible to management. They sit in clusters by department, whispering among themselves, unsure what this unprecedented gathering means for their futures. Amara stands at the podium without notes, without prepared remarks. She speaks from the heart, her voice carrying across the anxious crowd. "I want to tell you all a story," she begins. 25 years ago, a young black woman walked into a hotel much like this one, looking for a job. Any job. She was fresh out of college, full of dreams and ambition. She was turned away at the door. The manager didn't even look at her application. He took one look at her skin and decided she wasn't hotel material. The room is silent, everyone sensing where this story leads. "That woman was me," Amara continues. "I stood outside that hotel and made myself a promise. One day, I wouldn't just work in a place like that. I would own it, and I would make sure no one else ever felt the way I felt that day." Her voice catches slightly, the emotion genuine and raw. "Today, I discovered that I failed in that promise. The very discrimination I sought to eliminate had taken root in my own house. That ends now." She outlines her vision for the new Grandeur Royale. Not just policy changes, but a fundamental shift in culture. Promotion paths for hourly workers. A mentorship program pairing senior staff with juniors across racial and ethnic lines. An anonymous reporting system that bypasses local management. Pay equity audits. Partnership with local community colleges for hospitality training. Each announcement is met with growing excitement from the crowd. "But I need your help," Amara says, making eye contact across the room. "You see things I don't. You know where the problems hide. You've witnessed the small cruelties, the daily indignities, the systematic barriers. I'm asking you to be my eyes and ears, not spies or snitches, but partners in building something better. Together, we're going to make the Grandeur Royale a place where excellence in service means serving everyone with excellence." An older Latina woman from housekeeping raises her hand tentatively. "Ms. Johnson? I've worked here 15 years. They always promise change. How do we know this time is different?" It's a fair question, born from years of disappointment. Amara steps away from the podium, moving closer to the crowd. "Because this time, you have my personal phone number," she says, pulling out her business cards, the real ones this time, with her title clearly displayed. "Because this time, the changes aren't coming from consultants or middle managers trying to look good. They're coming from someone who's been where you are, who knows what it's like to be dismissed and diminished. And because this time, I'm not asking you to trust words, I'm asking you to watch our actions and hold us accountable." She hands out her cards, moving through the crowd, shaking hands, learning names. Maria from housekeeping tears up as she shares how Derek used to time her breaks and dock her pay for being 30 seconds late. James from maintenance talks about being passed over for promotion 3 times in favor of less qualified white candidates. Story after story emerges, painting a picture of systematic discrimination that goes far beyond today's incident. Jennifer Wu takes notes on every complaint, every story. Michael Roberts assures workers that retaliation for speaking up will be met with immediate termination and legal action. David Morrison pledges the board's full support for whatever measures are necessary. It's not just corporate speak, there's genuine commitment behind the words. A young night shift worker named Destiny raises her hand. "Ms. Johnson, I was ready to quit last week. Every day, comments about my hair, my accent, my skin. I felt so alone. Today, watching you stand up to them, you reminded me why I wanted to work in hospitality in the first place. To make people feel welcome. Thank you for reminding me I belong here too." As the meeting winds down, something remarkable happens. The staff, who entered as fearful individuals, begin to coalesce into a community. They exchange phone numbers, create WhatsApp groups, plan lunch meetings. The very solidarity that management had suppressed begins to bloom. Amara watches with satisfaction. This is how real change happens, not just from the top down, but from the bottom up, when people realize they have power in their shared experiences and collective voice. Later that evening, Amara sits in her office, the one Derek never knew existed on the top floor. The social media explosion has been intense. The purple-haired girl's live stream has been viewed over 2 million times. News outlets are calling for statements. The hotel's Yelp page is being flooded with both 5-star reviews praising their stance against discrimination and 1-star reviews from those who side with the fired employees. Her phone rings. It's her grandmother, now 92, calling from Mississippi. "Baby girl," the voice creaks with age but rings with pride. "I saw the news. You did good today. You remembered where you came from." Amara feels tears prick her eyes. "I learned from the best, Grandma." There's a pause. Then her grandmother speaks again. "But remember, baby, tearing down is just the first step. Building up, that's the real work. That's what lasts." The wisdom settles over Amara like a familiar blanket. Tomorrow, she'll begin the harder work of building. Tonight, she allows herself this moment of satisfaction. But it's not the dramatic applause or viral fame that stays with her. It's the quiet moments that matter. As she finally prepares to leave for the night, she passes through the lobby one more time. The night shift has taken over. At the front desk, Jerome, the young man she promoted to replace Sarah, greets arriving guests with genuine warmth. By the concierge station, Dorothy is training a new hire, her voice patient and kind. "This is the Grandeur Royale," Amara hears Dorothy say. "We treat everyone like royalty here. Everyone. That's not just policy, that's a promise." Amara pauses in the shadows, watching Dorothy, who could have been bitter after 23 years of struggle, choosing hope instead. No applause, no grand gestures, just quiet determination to build something better. Her phone buzzes. An email from a guest who witnessed everything. "I've stayed at 5-star hotels worldwide. Today, I saw 6-star humanity. My company will be booking all future events at the Grandeur Royale." Another message, unexpected, from Derek's wife. "I'm divorcing him. I never knew. I'm sorry for what he did. Thank you for showing me who he really was. My daughter deserves better than to grow up thinking that behavior is acceptable." A third, from a hotel in Atlanta. "Ms. Johnson, I'm a black general manager who heard about what happened today. You've given me the courage to address the discrimination in my own property. Thank you for showing us it's possible to fight back." The city lights blur through her tears as Amara finally heads home. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Tonight, she holds on to Dorothy's words, Destiny's hope, Jerome's determination, and the quiet revolution beginning in her hotel. In the days that follow, the Grandeur Royale transforms. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. Dorothy leads the new diversity training, sharing her story with brutal honesty. Jerome implements a buddy system, pairing new hires with experienced staff across racial lines. The maintenance team, finally given a voice, reveals years of safety concerns that were ignored because they came from those people. 3 months later, Amara returns from a board meeting to find a gift on her desk. It's a photo album created by the staff. Page after page of images. The new diverse leadership team, the employee resource groups that have formed, the community partnerships with local schools. The last page is a photo of the lobby, crowded with staff members of every color and creed, all wearing pins that say, "Everyone belongs here." A note is tucked inside, written in Dorothy's careful handwriting. "You came back to tear down the walls. We're building the bridges. Thank you for reminding us that we deserve to be here too." This is the real victory. Not the viral moment, not the dramatic firing, but the slow, steady work of building a place where dignity isn't determined by skin color, where respect isn't rationed based on perceived worth, where everyone who walks through those doors knows they belong. Every person reading this story has power. Maybe you're not a CEO. Maybe you can't fire the racists in your workplace. But you have a voice. You have choices. You can be Dorothy, maintaining dignity through decades of discrimination. You can be Destiny, choosing hope despite hurt. You can be Jerome, stepping up when given the chance. You can be the purple-haired girl, using your platform to expose injustice. Or you can be Derek, wielding petty power to hurt those you see as beneath you. You can be Sarah, so desperate to belong that you mock others. You can be Anthony, so focused on climbing that you forget who you're stepping on. You can be Rebecca, using your position to steal from those who have least. The choice is yours. Every day, in every interaction, you choose. Not with grand gestures, but with small decisions. The way you greet a stranger. The assumptions you challenge or reinforce. The jokes you laugh at or shut down. The policies you follow blindly or question courageously. 9 minutes to expose injustice. A lifetime to build justice. The Grandeur Royale's transformation isn't complete. It may never be. But it's begun, and that's what matters. Change doesn't require perfection, it requires persistence. It doesn't demand heroes, it needs humans willing to do better. In the end, Amara Johnson's story isn't about revenge or vindication. It's about responsibility. The responsibility that comes with power. The responsibility we all share to create spaces where everyone belongs. The responsibility to speak up, stand up, and show up for justice. The last image in the security footage from that day shows Amara leaving the hotel as the sun sets. But if you look closely, in the background you can see Dorothy at the front entrance, greeting the night shift. You can see Jerome helping an elderly guest with her luggage. You can see the maintenance worker who finally felt safe enough to report the broken elevator that had been ignored for months. You can see the beginning of change. Not in the dramatic moment of revelation, but in the quiet determination of people choosing to be better. That's the real power. That's the lasting transformation. That's the hope. Be the change. One interaction at a time. One choice at a time. One moment at a time. The world has enough Dereks. It needs more Dorothas. Which one will you be? The choice is yours. The moment is now. The power is real. Make it count.